Insane. So let's start with the basics, we'll do like a recap right now from Math 1, a very quick recap. I'll solve one question from Math 1, عشان best to refresh your minds a bit, specifically with the geometry with sine, cosine. Let's start with basic things, like very basic things. First of all, you all remember triangles. أكيد يعني triangles. The number of sides of a triangle is 3. You all should know that. And the angles should always be equal to, this is a right angle. The angles should always be equal to, total angle should be equal to 180 degrees. In the case of a quadrilateral or a square or any four-sided object, the number of angles is equal to 4. The degrees of angles should be totaling 360 degrees. These are just basic concepts. I'm going to go very quickly just in case. The most important thing you guys should remember is the rules for a triangle, because you're going to be using these even outside of Math 2 a lot. So let's say you have this triangle, you have an angle theta here. Okay. Remember, we have the hypotenuse, which is this side over here, the one opposite to the right angle. Then we have the opposite to the angle, which is this side over here. This is the opposite. And then we have the adjacent, which is this over here. This is in the case of a right triangle. Okay. So katoa. I'm pretty sure you guys all remember that. So katoa. This is very important. You guys make sure you always remember this. So katoa. What does this mean? Basically, sine of theta is equal to OH, which is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. All right. So just remember this rule. This is very important. You're going to be using a lot. This is only in the case of a right triangle, meaning there's a right angle in the triangle. Tamam? Very important concept. If you have one angle and one side here, you can find basically every other angle / side in the triangle, in the case of a right triangle. Now, moving on to the bit more advanced concept that you guys did as well in Math 1. We have, let's say we have a random triangle like this, where we do not have any right angles. Okay, let's call this A, angle A, or let's make it easier. Let's call this angle alpha. Let's call this angle beta. And let's call this angle, I want to say Charlie, but let's call it theta just for simplicity, theta. Okay, theta is opposite to C. Alpha is opposite to A. And the side B is opposite to, beta is opposite to B. So first thing we have is the sine rule. Okay, this is in the case if we have a triangle that does not have any specific sides, like any specific, any right angle, like, and not, it does not follow the basic right triangle rules. So under the sine rule, what does the sine rule say? The sine rule says the sine of, let's start with A, the sine of A, or sine of alpha, I should say, sine of alpha over A is going to equal to the sine of beta over B, which is going to be equal to the sine of theta over C. Remember this rule. Or you can flip them where you just put like A up and B up and the sine bottom. Like you can swap them if you want up and down, basic math. This is a very important rule to remember as well. This is called the sine rule. So the sine of this angle over the opposite side of it is equal to the sine of any other angle to the opposite side of it. And then we have the cosine rule. The cosine rule, okay, the cosine rule is basically when you have two sides and one angle. So let's say in this case we have C, we have B, these two sides, and we have angle alpha. This is where you use cosine rule to determine the side A. So A squared is going to be equal to B squared plus C squared, okay, minus, if you remember, this is basically the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, this first part is Pythagoras theorem, but because this is not a right triangle, we have to add this cosine rule part of it, which is minus 2 times b times c times cosine alpha, which is the angle opposite to the side you are trying to find. All right. Yes, this is a Math 2 session. This is just a revision of Math 1 because this could come in the exam. Now, this is just the most important thing you guys need to remember from trigonometry: the sine rule, cosine rule, and the right triangle angles, and the sine rule, cosine rule, and the right triangle angles, the SOHCAHTOA. TOA. Another thing I want to talk about real quick, I'm not sure if this will be in the exam or not, but I want to cover it very quickly just in case, is the standard form. Standard form. All right. Standard form, what does that mean? So let's say we have a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.678, for example. Okay. So this is called the normal form. Yani this is 12,345. Okay, 0.678. To turn this into standard form, you're going to be taking the decimal point, 1, 2, 3, to the very first number. So how many times did we move it here? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So to write this in standard form, it will be something like this: 1.2345678 times 10 to the power of, how many times did we move the decimal? 4. And that's it. This is exactly what standard form is. So in science, in scientific notation, usually, as an engineer or in math, you will always be using this form, or most of the time be using this form to write properly big numbers and to have it in a standardized form. Tamam? So that's the whole idea, the whole concept. You're just going to have the decimal point right after the very first number. And then you're going to count how many times you move the decimal and then multiply that by 10 to the power. And this works both ways. So let's say we have 0.0567. Okay. This, we are going to move the decimal to the very first non-zero number. So 1, 2. We moved it 2 times. 1, 2. Here it's going to be 5.67. But since we moved to the left, we're going to be multiplying by 10 to the power minus 2. So I mean to the right. So when we're moving this to the right, we're multiplying by negative 2. If we're moving it to the left, we're multiplying it by the positive value. Tamam? This is just a very basic, quick intro and reminder of the standard form, just in case it comes. And now I want to just talk about functions real quick, so you guys understand the wording when someone talks about a function. So in math, we have multiple types of functions. Okay, we have one, the linear function. What's a linear function? It takes the form of y equals mx plus b. I'm pretty sure you've seen this a lot now, where m is slope or gradient, and b is the y-intercept. And usually the graph is a straight line. Not usually, always the graph is just a straight line. Okay, so this is a linear function. This is a linear function. For example, إذا عندنا y is equal to 5x plus 3. This is a linear function. تمام? Then we have the quadratic that we have seen. Quadratic function is going to be in the form of x squared plus, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. The graph is usually a concave graph or a parabolic graph, either upwards or downwards. This has two solutions. So this has one solution, this has two solutions for x. Pretty sure you know all of this right now. I just want to cover it very quickly again. And then we have something you see a lot more often now, which is a polynomial. So the above examples are basically also considered polynomials, but they are standard polynomials. So linear equations are polynomials, quadratic equations are polynomials. What is a polynomial? A polynomial is basically any function that has the x value in it. So for example, let's say y is equal to 3x to the power 5 plus 4x to the power 3 plus 2. This is a polynomial. So anything that has, a function in it, whether it's linear, whether it's quadratic, as long as they have an x to a power or just an x available, a variable, these are called polynomials, which you've seen a lot when you do division and all of that. So this is a polynomial function, okay, y, or sometimes they might call it y of x. And just this part by itself would be called an expression, a polynomial expression. هذه بس wording, just names. I'm just covering these just in case you ever want to come back to this and remember what is meant by the word polynomial. Now, moving on, this was 3 polynomial. Let's go to 4, which was rational function, a rational function. So what is a rational function? A rational function is when you're dividing one polynomial by another. So it's like a polynomial over a polynomial. Now, this is what you're more familiar with in Math 2, what you are doing. You're dividing polynomials where you use either partial fractions or long division. So, for example, let's say x squared plus 2 over x cubed plus 7x plus 2, something like that. So this is called a rational function because there's division between two polynomials. That's basically what it is. The graph can vary in shape depending on the many types of polynomial division there is. Then there is a trigonometric function. A trigonometric function. I'm going to just tell you very quickly, this is basically anything that contains sine or cosine. If it has sine or cosine in it, for example, y is equal to sine x, this is considered a trigonometric function. ليش؟ لأن if you see the graph, it is a continuous sinusoidal wave. This is what it looks like. Okay. You're going to see this a lot. You're going to be using this a lot, especially electromechanical, electrical engineers. If, you're going to be using this a lot later on in AC circuit and a lot of design. Then we have the exponential function. I know this sounds a lot really boring, but these are very important terms. لازم تكونوا عارفينها. You really need to know eventually لأن you're going to be using a lot later on. Exponential is in the name. It is when you have either like e to the power of x, something like that. This is the exponential, where this is the factor, the base, the constant e to the power of an x value, where your graph is depending on if it is decaying or growth. You remember that from Math 1. It's going to look something like this or something like that. It's exponentially growing, so exponential growth or exponential decay. This is the exponential. And then we have the guy that is related to exponential, which is the logarithmic function. Okay. This is the last main function you need to know, where basically, if you remember, we used log or len functions. So anything that contains these is basically a logarithmic function, like log of x or log of 2x or something. This is a logarithmic function. I just wanted to go over these very quickly. لأن on Moodle in week 1 you had all of these concepts, and I wanted to just cover it real quick just in case it does come in the exam. Revise your Math 1. This is mostly all coming from Math 1, except maybe the rational and polynomials, where we're gonna cover now soon. I want to solve one question using trigonometry, which I did not see in Math 1, just so you guys understand the concept, which was this one. So far, before I start into this question, does anyone have any questions regarding week 1 material or Math 1 material in general? The reason, again, I'm covering week 1 material and Math 1 material is some other students from previous years used to say that a lot of Math 1 material, a lot of sine and cosine used to come in the midterm. So I'm covering these just in case, just in case. Yes, Hussein, you have a question? Go ahead.
I think Faisal, the questions you have in the form from Moodle, I tried to solve the question number 1. I got a really close answer. I don't know what's wrong with it. Tried calculating it multiple times, the same answer coming for me.
You mean the question 1 here, this one?
Yeah. I was getting 169.4. I don't know. I kept trying multiple times.
I got the same thing. It is just a rounding error, and I also solved it. So your method is most probably correct, where you cut it in half and did all of that, I'm guessing. But it most probably is a round off error. Now I'm going to solve this question in the same manner. And then the answer was very close as well. Inshallah, I'll solve this question. This one is exactly the same method. If you're following the same steps and you're just getting a slightly different number, يعني it's most probably a round off error, but it is exactly the same steps. The reason I wanted to solve this question is because it's very interesting. يعني it's not something you covered in Math 1. The area of a field is in the form of a quadrilateral, يعني four-sided shape ABCD as shown in the figure. Determine its area. Now you can see it's not a common quadrilateral, it's not a square, rectangle, trapezoid. It has يعني a weird looking shape تقدرون تقولون. So how would you solve this? Every time you are given a quadrilateral where it is not a common one and you're given at least two angles and four sides, you can easily find the area by splitting this quadrilateral into two pieces. So first thing, we're going to connect the two sides or the 2 points, the two vertices, اللي ما عندهم angle, the ones that do not have an angle given in the question. We're going to connect them with a straight line. Now you see we have two triangles. We have triangle 1 over here, and we have triangle 2 over here. Tamam? So this is the first step you do. And then we're going to solve this using all the trigonometry we know from the rules that we got. First, we're going to look at triangle number 1. Tamam? You can either start with 2 or 1, but in this case, I'm just going to go with triangle number 1. So let me just copy paste this again so we do not make a huge mess. So if we're looking at just triangle number 1, we're not looking at this. We're only looking at this part. Triangle number 1, we notice that we have a side given, which is side AB. We have this side. This side is given. We have the middle angle given, and we have the other side given. So what does this rule remind you of? When we have two sides and an angle in between them, how can we find the distance BD? The way to do this is simply cosine rule. Cosine rule. Because what was cosine rule? Cosine rule is cosine rule of this triangle is basically to find a side opposite to the angle, in this case BD. Let's call this B. Okay, so side B is equal to, or B squared I should say, is equal to 21.4 squared, the first side squared, 21.4 squared, plus 39.8 squared. Where am I getting these values? These are the side values, this side over here and this side over here. Okay, I'm just applying the cosine rule. Minus 2 times the first side times the second side, times the second side, which is 39.8, times the cosine of the angle between them, which is 114. Okay, and that's it. And now we found B squared. If you put this all in the calculator, B squared is going to be equal to 21.4 squared plus 39.8 squared minus 2 into 21.4 times 39.8 times cosine 114. It's equal to 2,734.85 if we take the square root of both sides to find B, because the square root will cancel with the square. B is going to be equal to 52.3, rounded up. Okay, so we found that B is equal to 52.3. This side B, we found it. This is the very first step to solve. The reason we are finding B is we are going to find the area of triangle number 1, then the area of triangle number 2, and then we're going to add them, because the question is to find the area of a field. So we need to find the area of this complete field. Tamam? So now we found the base for both triangles. Then just to recall, area of a triangle is half base times height. Okay, so we found the base now, this B, we found the base. Now we need to find the height of both, the perpendicular height, I should say. This is the perpendicular height of both triangles. And we're going to do that using the same methods we did earlier of sine and cosine rule. Okay, so if I copy this again here, we have this B, we found this BD, okay? We found this base. We found it to be 52.3 meters. Okay? We're looking at the left triangle now. We are looking at the left triangle. What is the perpendicular height? The perpendicular height is الخط, line from A all the way to here, which is perpendicular. تمام? This is the perpendicular height. Best, before we even find the perpendicular height, we need to find these two angles over here. This angle here, one of these two angles, I should say, or this angle here. Why do we need to find these angles? لأن بعدين we want to use trigonometry to find this perpendicular height using this small triangle. So let's call this point O. Okay? So if you look at this point O, the angle we want, or the side we want, is OA, which we will call height 1. Okay? This is what we are looking for. And to do that, we're going to have to find the angles either here or here to determine it using basic right angle triangle SOHCAHTOA theories. Fair. Step by step, let's do this. Now we need to find, let's look at this angle over here. Okay, we're not going to look at the top angle, let's look at the bottom angle. I'm going to erase this height 1 for now, so we can just look at the triangle as a whole. Let's look at this triangle. So you know that we have the sides, we have all the sides, and we have one angle. This isn't a right triangle, this is a normal triangle. So we can use sine rule to determine this angle over here. So let's call this angle theta, okay? Sine theta is going to be divided by what? The angle opposite to it. So what is opposite to theta? The side, I mean, opposite to it. The side opposite to it is 39.8 meters. It's equal to, what is the angle we know over here? We know the angle 114. So it's going to be equal to sine of 114 divided by what is opposite to angle 114, the side 52.3. We have everything except sine theta. We do some algebra to simplify this. We just take the 39.8 to the other side. So it's going to be 39.8 times sine 114 over 52.3. Theta is going to be the sine inverse of this equation over here. Okay, we're just going to do that real quick in one step now. So sine inverse of 39.8 times sine 114 divided by 52.3. This is going to be equal to theta, yani theta over here. Theta is going to be equal to 44.04 degrees. All right, make sure your calculator is in degrees. So far, again, I'm just going to recap very quickly. What we did is we used sine rule from this triangle to determine one other angle, either ABD or BDA. All right, that was the whole idea. So now that we found this angle, let's copy paste this one more time. Or actually, let's not. Let's just draw the triangle that we have so far, which is triangle 1. This is what the triangle kind of looks like. Okay, so we found this angle, which is 44.04. So this is 44 degrees تقريبا. We have all the sides. We have 52.3. Okay, we have 21.4 and 39.8. 21.4, 39.8, and these are all in meters. Then, so what did we want to find earlier from this shape? What did we want to find? We wanted to find the perpendicular height. So this triangle, we want to find the perpendicular height, which is this height over here. And then H, let's call it H1. How do we find this perpendicular height? We will split this into a smaller triangle. We're going to look at this bottom part only. So if we draw only the bottom triangle, this is what it will look like. So now we have a right triangle. Tamam? This is the angle 44, nothing changed. This is 21.4, and this is H1. The height that we are trying to find, H1. And this is a right angle. So here we have the sine, we have the angle. We have the hypotenuse. We just need to find the side. And this side is opposite to the angle. So we need an equation with opposite. So remember, so, ka, toa. Okay? We need an equation with the angle, obviously, with the hypotenuse, and with the opposite. So what has the O and H together? It's not the toa, it's not the ka, it's the so. So we're gonna use that equation. So S, which is sine of theta, which is 44, is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. What's the opposite? It's H1, which we need to find, H1. Okay, so this is the opposite, this is the hypotenuse, divided by, what's the hypotenuse? 21.4. Which is going to, if we rearrange this, we could just take the 21.4 to the other side. H1 is equal to 21.4 sine 44. So H1 is equal to, if we just put this in the calculator, 21.4 times sine of 44, which is 14.9 meters. So we found our H1. So now we can find the area of this triangle. The area of a triangle is, again, half the base. This is the base. This is the base times the height, which is H1. So half base times H1, in this case height, which is half. The base was equal to 52.3 times the height, which is 14.9. So this is going to be equal to 0.4 times half times 52.3 times 14.9. It's equal to 389.635 تقريبا. All right, meters squared. This is area 1. Area of triangle 1. Okay? Now we are going to repeat the exact same steps that we have done over here for the second triangle, this big triangle. We already have the base calculated previously from cosine rule, so we don't have to recalculate that, but we have to do the same steps here to find the angle and all of that. So to do that, I'm just going to copy this again one more time over here. So now we are looking at triangle number 2 over here. Okay, وهذا 52.3 meters. Again, nothing has changed. So if we are going, what we need to do is we need to determine one of the angles here. So we want to determine, for example, this angle over here, down here. This angle, let's call it alpha, for example. Okay, we want to find angle alpha. We will do the exact same steps again. We will use sine rule. The sine of angle alpha over the opposite. What is opposite to it? It's 42.5 meters is equal to, what is the known angle here? It's 56, so sine 56 over 52, the opposite. What is opposite to it? It's the 52.3. We rearrange this, and then we will get alpha is equal to sine inverse of, I'm just skipping some steps, 42.5. When we take it to the other side, it's going to be 42.5 sine 56 over 52.3. This is exactly what we did earlier above. I just did quick algebra to solve it instantly in one go. Okay, the exact same steps اللي سويناها هني. Exact same steps. تمام? So alpha is going to be equal to the sine inverse of 42.5 times sine 56 over 52.3, which is equal to 42.35 degrees. Tamam? So we have alpha is equal to 42.35 degrees. Now we can draw this triangle, the BDC triangle. Let's draw it. So we have this straight over here. Second, so again, we have the straight line here. Then the triangle is straight here. Okay, we have this triangle. I just redrew this triangle slightly. Okay, so this is 42.5. This is 56 degrees. Not going to draw this angle for a bit just to explain a point. 62.3 meters. And we have this side, which is the base, 52.3. We need to, and we found this angle to be 42.35. Let's just say 42 degrees. Okay. Now we need to find the height, the perpendicular height. Let's do it in purple. This is the perpendicular height. Okay, the perpendicular height. So we take this, we'll call this H2. Okay, for the second triangle. We will do the exact same steps again. Now, if you look, we can cut this into half. We can take just this triangle over here to find the perpendicular height. So if we redraw just the bottom triangle, it's going to look something like this. And this is a right angle, and this is H2. This is 62.3, and this is 42 degrees. Again, the exact same concept. So since it's a right triangle, ka toa, we have opposite. We have the hypotenuse first. This is the hypotenuse. And we have, sorry, this is not the hypotenuse. This is the hypotenuse, the one opposite to the right angle over here. And we have the opposite. So what are we going to use? We're going to be using, so again, so sine of 42 degrees is equal to opposite, which is H2, over the hypotenuse, which is 62.3. If we rearrange this, H2 is going to be equal to 62.3 times sine of 42 degrees. H2 is equal to 62.3 times the sine of 42 degrees. And it's 41.7 meters. Now we have the height. All we need is the base and height. So we have the base. This is the base, 52.3, the base. And we have the height. So for a triangle, it is half base times height. In this case, H2. So it's equal to half the base, which is 52.3, times the height, which is the perpendicular height, اللي هو 41.7, which is equal to, so again, half times the base, which is 52.3, times the height, which is 41.7, is equal to 1090.455 meters squared. Okay? This is for triangle 2. Area of triangle 2. الحين all we have to do is add 1 plus 2. That's it. We have to add the areas. لأن if we copy this one last time down here, we had this split into half over here. We split this like this. Okay, this is our first triangle. Actually, let's say this is our second triangle here. Okay, and this is our first triangle here. We're just adding it to find the total area. So this was 1 and this was 2. So area 1 was equal to, if we look back up here, area 1 was 389.635. 389.635. Area 2 is equal to 1090.455. So the area total is just going to be equal to area 1 plus area 2 اللي هو 389.635 plus 1090.455. So the area of the quadrilateral is going to be equal to 389.635 plus 1090.455, which is 1480 meters. Tamam? So this is how you solve this question. Does anyone have any questions about this? see here it says 1487, but I got 1480. This is because I rounded a lot in the angles and the square roots and sine and the cosine. When you do rounding, الرقم شوي بيختلف. The number will be a bit more different. This is it for the revision for basically Math 1. I'm going to jump into polynomials now. So before I do that, does anyone have any questions about anything I have covered so far? My recommendation is to practice a lot with the sine and cosines especially. This is how they might give you a question in the exam, I would assume. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's as you can see, it's all Math 1. It's not really any new concepts. But now, inshallah, I will start in Math 2 content. Insane. Let's start first with polynomials. So you remember we were talking about polynomials. The polynomials which are, x cubed plus 3x plus 5. This is a polynomial expression. If I put y is equal to, this becomes a polynomial function. Mostly what you need to do is, what you need to know when it comes to polynomials in this case is doing polynomial algebra. And that consists of partial fractions, dividing, polynomial long division, and factorizing a lot, understanding how to factorize, especially for long division. So I'm going to start just going into an example with a basic question for long division. Let's do this one. So the question just says, simplify the following rational functions using long division. Rational function meaning there is a polynomial divided by another polynomial. So to do long division, it's going to take a lot of space here. We're going to write the numerator here, 2x4 minus 9x cubed plus 21x squared minus 26x plus 12. Tamam? So this is the numerator. The numerator goes into here. This is the numerator. The denominator goes here, 2x minus 3. This is how you do long division, even when it comes to normal numbers. In this case, how are we going to solve this? The most important thing you need to look at is always the largest x term you have that you're dividing with. In this case, it's 2x. You're going to compare this with the first value. This is how you start it. You're going to compare it with the first value. So you're going to do this. You're going to take 2x power 4 on the side. You're going to do this, 2x power 4, and you will divide it by 2x. And how can you simplify this? If you remember from Math 1, this is power 4, this is power 1, so it's going to be 4 minus 1. 2 and 2 cancels, so بيبقى x power 3. Again, if I just repeat really quickly, this is as if it's power 1, so this will become minus this. This is just exponents. Remember how to deal with the same bases, different exponents. This is how you do it in multiplication and division. So بيبقى x cubed. In other words, شو معناته هالكلام? What does this mean? This means that if you multiply 2x by x cubed, بيطلع لكم الجواب 2x power 4. For now, you will take this value over here. You will take this value and you will put it in the answer. So this is x cubed on the very first row. أول شيء فوق اللي ضربته فيه. So this is x cubed. This is your first step. You found your x cubed. What do you do with this x cubed now? You will multiply your entire function with x cubed, your entire denominator with x cubed. شو اللي بيطلع لكم? So you will do this. X cubed into 2x minus 3. الجواب بيكون يساوي x cubed times 2x بيصير 2x power 4 minus 3 times x cubed بيصير minus 3x cubed. تمام? So you will take this expression now. This expression, you will take it and you will put it here. All right? So بتاخذون الexpression وبتكتبونه تحت هني. ف 2x power 4 minus 3x cubed. تمام? Make sure you are lining up the same powers under the same numbers. ففي الحالة x power 4 بيكون تحت ال 4, x power 3 بيكون تحت ال x power 3 في اللاين اب. So just to recap before I move on. First step, we are looking at the purple, the very first term of both, the highest terms of both. يعني the highest term بما معناه highest power اللي هو هني 4 هني 1. We divide this by this only عشان we find out the value that you need to multiply this into. بيطلع لكم ال x cubed. هذا ال x cubed بتضربونه, you will multiply it in the entire expression. And then the answer you will get from multiplying x into this entire expression, you will put it underneath, and this is the entire process you're going to be repeating. So now, to move on, what you're going to do here is you're going to subtract this entire expression, just like you do normal division, but in this case with variables. For 2x power 4 minus 2x power 4 شو يصير؟ 0. Okay? Minus 9x cubed, minus 9x cubed, minus الماينس هذا, this is this minus, this is this minus, minus 3x cubed. صح ولا لا? This is what you're getting. If you want to simplify this more, this is going to be minus 9x cubed plus, لأن minus و minus يستوي plus 3x cubed, بيستوي لكم minus 9x cubed plus 3x cubed is going to become minus 6x cubed. تمام? I wrote this in multiple different steps. You could do it directly إذا أنتم فاهمين. I did this in multiple steps just so you do not make mistakes يعني with the negative sign, with distributing, with all of that. فبيبقى لكم minus 6x cubed. What do you do now? Now that you have minus 6x cubed, you've simplified it. You will bring this entire expression from here down. And you will repeat the entire process again. So plus 21x squared minus 26x plus 12. All right? And you will repeat the entire process again. So now this is done. Minus 6x cubed. We were done with this part. We are going to repeat this process again. من البداية. We're going to look at the minus 6x cubed, and we're going to look at the 2x. And we're going to do the exact same thing again. So هني this is done. We're going to repeat the process. Minus 6x cubed قسمة 2x. So again, x cubed over x, this becomes x squared, 3 minus 1. Minus 6 divided by 2 is going to be minus 3x squared. So this value, again, this value, you're going to take up here with the sign. So minus 3x squared. Okay? Minus 3x squared. And now you will multiply the minus 3x squared into this again. So you're repeating the exact same process. So minus 3x squared times what? 2x minus 3. If we just distribute here, minus 3x squared times 2x, it's going to be minus 6x cubed. Minus 3x squared times minus 3 is just minus 9x. Minus and minus becomes actually plus, minus 3 and minus 3, plus 9x squared. And now we take this expression, just like we did here. We took this expression up here. We're going to take this expression again back up here under this. So what was the expression? Minus 6x cubed plus 9x squared. Tamam? So this is the expression. And now we start solving again. Minus 6x cubed, remember this is going to be all subtracted. So minus 6x cubed minus minus plus 6x cubed cancels. This becomes 0. If you are not getting 0 here, إذا ما قاعدين تحصلون 0 هني, just know you did a mistake in one of these steps over here, either in this purple step or here, the orange and green step. So make sure you're the first value you are getting 0. That way you know you are doing it correctly. Plus 21x squared, so plus 21x squared minus 9x squared. Okay? So we simplify this. 21x squared minus 9x squared is 20, that's مخي شوي جيم 12x squared. تمام? And then again, we will repeat the entire process all over again until we are done with all the numbers. إنزين? So this is 12x squared. Hello? Again, we're going to look at this number, 12x squared. First, we're going to bring this whole part, we're going to be bringing it down, minus 26x. Anything that has not been touched, we'll bring it down again. So this will become minus 26x plus 12. تمام؟ For 12x squared, we're going to look at it and we're going to compare it again with the 2x minus the 2x here, the first 2x. So we will do the same process again. So this we are done with here. We are done with here. We are going to go do the same process again, where we divide 12x squared by 2x. This is going to be equal to x squared over x is just x. 12 over 2 is 6. 6x. The 6x we are going to be taking up here. So it is plus 6x positive. It's not negative. So it's plus 6x. And again, we will do the same thing where we multiply it with 2x minus 3. So 6x times 2x minus 3. Tamam? We simplify. 6 times 2 is 12. X times x is x squared. 6x times minus 3. So 6 times minus 3 is minus 18x. Okay? 12x squared minus 18x. Now we take this up here. So we're going to write it as it is, which is 12x squared minus 18x. 12x squared minus 18x. And we are repeating the exact same process again. We're going to subtract. 12x squared minus 12x squared is 0, so we are on the right track. Minus 26x minus, again, this minus is this minus over here, minus 18x. Okay? Simplify this. Minus 26x. Minus and minus becomes plus 18x. So the final simplification, this will become minus 26 plus 18. طلع calculator احتياط. Minus 8x. All right. So we reached minus 8x. Again, we're going to take whatever is left here, which is the plus 12 all the way down. Plus 12. خلصنا احنا الحين from this part. We're going to repeat the steps all over again. We're going to look at this, minus 8x, and we're going to look at, again, the minus 2x over here, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing. So minus 8x over 2x, it's going to be equal to minus 4x. And then x, oh, sorry, minus 4, just minus 4. Then x and x will cancel, the x's will cancel. Minus 8 divided by 2 is minus 4. This minus 4, we will take up this minus 4. We will take all the way up here. Minus 4. Tamam? Minus 4. Again, the same exact thing. The same exact thing. This minus 4 over here, it's going to be multiplied into 2x minus 3. So minus 4 times 2x minus 3. 2x, if we just simplify this, minus 4 times 2x is minus 8x. Minus 4 times minus 3, minus and minus becomes plus. 4 times 3 becomes 12. Minus 8x plus 12. Minus 8x plus 12. Again, we're just taking this solution and taking it up here. Tamam? Minus 8x minus 8x minus 8x, يعني minus minus becomes plus, so this becomes 0. 12 minus 12 becomes 0. ما عندنا remainder. So this is how you find the solution. This is your final answer. So the final answer to this is equal to x cubed minus 3x squared plus 6x minus 4. تمام? Anyone has any questions? Any questions about long division so far? Nothing? Let me do one more example where you're going to get the remainder, and then we're going to go into partial fractions. Tamam? I think this one we will get a remainder. I hope so يعني. So this is the question. 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 3 divided by x squared plus 3x plus 3. But this is numerator, this is denominator. تذكروا إنه when you are doing long division, it's going to be numerator here and denominator here. تمام? So let's just do this very quickly since everyone knows the concepts. On this side, it's going to be x squared plus 3x plus 3. This side is 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 3. Hello? Again, look at the first term, the highest term and the highest term here. 3x cubed, what do you need to multiply by it? I'm just going to go do this very quickly. X squared times what becomes 3x cubed? It's times 3x. زين يعني 3x times x squared becomes 3x cubed. ف 3x now we have to multiply 3x by this entire thing. So it will become 3x into x squared plus 3x plus 3. So this will give us 3x cubed. نفس ما قلت 3x cubed حلو. Plus 3 times 3 is 9. X times x is x squared. Plus 3 times 3 is 9x. فهني بيكون عندنا 3x cubed plus 9x squared plus 9x. Again, we solve the exact same way. Subtract all of these. This has to be 0, the first one. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed. Okay, it's 0. Minus 2x squared minus 9x squared becomes minus 11x squared. 4 minus 9x is 3 minus 5x. The minus 3, we just bring it down. So minus 3. We'll do the exact same thing again. بنطالع أول term هني اللي هو minus 11x squared. هل term. So what do you have to multiply x squared to get minus 11x squared? طبعا just minus 11. تمام? So it becomes, again, خلصنا احنا من the first one. الحين we'll look at the second one. So it's going to be minus 11 into x squared plus 3x plus 3 minus 11x squared minus 33x minus 33 minus 11 times 3x minus 11 times 3. We're just going to rewrite this underneath here. So minus 11x squared minus 33x minus 33. And we subtract all of this. Remember, it's very important to add the negative sign. You are subtracting here. For minus 11x squared, minus 11 becomes plus 11. This becomes 0. Minus 5x minus minus becomes plus. So minus 5x plus 33 becomes 28x. Minus 3 minus minus becomes plus. So minus 3 plus 33 becomes 30 plus 30. تمام? And this becomes plus 33 minus 3, which is plus 30. Now, when you reach a point where the power here, this power here, this is the power 1. This is to the power of 1. And this is to the power of 2. Since x power 1 is less than x power 2, يعني 1 is less than 2, خلاص, this is your final answer, 3x minus 11, and this becomes your remainder. So the way you will write the solution to this, so the way you will write the solution to this is, you will write the 3x minus 11 like it is, then you will add the plus, and you will put your remainder. What's your remainder? 28x plus 30. 28x plus 30 divided by d, الدينومينيتور مالنا اللي هو هذا كامل. زين. So divided by x squared plus 3x plus 3. This is the simplest form you can يعني get using long division. طبعا if we do partial fractions we can go into it further, but this is how you would write it if you have a remainder in long division. Is this clear? Is everything from long division clear? If it is, we can jump into partial fractions. All right. Since everything is clear, let's just take a 5-minute break. I want to go grab some water. 5 minutes only. We'll be back in 5 minutes. زين. فيعني 11 10 we'll be back at 11 10. تمام. Just 5 minutes, we'll be back. Does anyone have any questions before we move forward? All right, then. Let's begin partial fractions. For some reason, people are always scared of partial fractions, even though it's one of the easiest concepts that simplifies everything. اللي لازم تعرفونه 3 different rules. ما أعرف إذا بيعطونكم إياه في الامتحان، مو متأكد. I don't think so. They might, but I'm not sure. بس you need to remember these 3 different rules. عندكم linear factors, عندكم repeated linear factors, وعندكم quadratic factors. More specifically, quadratic that you cannot factorize. These you cannot factorize or simplify more, which we will see in a bit. So the best way to explain this directly is by just starting to solve the questions as many as we can. So let's start with a simple question like this. Okay. It's not that simple, but we'll start with it. Now, هني عندنا 7x plus 36 over x squared plus 12x plus 32. Simplify the rational expression using partial fractions. The first rule for partial fractions, first thing you need to make sure is in the numerator, x power يعني الباور اللي هو هني should be less than the denominator. يعني هني عندنا ال x power مالنا is the x power 1. هني عندنا x power 2. So this is so we can do partial fractions with it. If it was not the case, إذا كان عندنا the power up is greater than the power down, first we are going to have to do long division, then we can do partial fractions. تمام? So let's start with the simple one. We look at the denominator. So let's just look at the denominator, x squared plus 12x plus 32. All right? First, we need to know if we can factorize this or not. The best way to do it, or the fastest way to do it, is by using mod 5, 3. Okay? Best way to do it is mod 5, 3. If they are equal, you do long division as well. If they are equal, you do long division. You cannot do partial fractions. If they're, this has to be less. Okay, so if it's less, you can do partial fractions. If it's equal to or more, you are going to do long division. Tamam? Now, so again, first way to know, or the fastest way to know how, if this is, you can factorize it or not, is by using mod 5.3 in the calculator. So just a quick recap. Remember, this is going to be A, B, and C. Our A here is equal to 1, B is equal to 12, and C is equal to 32. Hello? We go to the calculator, mod 5.3. And I don't have the right calculator for this one. Just 1 second. All right. So again, you're just going to get your calculator and you're going to do mod 5.3. You're going to put 1 for A, 12 for B, and 32 for C. Okay. You're going to get x1. x1 is equal to minus 4. And x2 is equal to minus 8. This way, you know directly in it is factorizable. يعني it's you can factorize this equation. In the case you cannot, you're gonna get what's it called? Complex numbers. يعني بما معناه you're gonna get I or J in your solution. This means this is not, you cannot factor this, which we will look at later on and you will see an example. But for now, let's just solve this one to see the solution for this. We will cover this example in a bit. So if we get x1 equal minus 4 and x2 is equal to minus 8, then what does this mean? This means that the solution for this is going to be, if we want to factorize, it's going to be x plus 4, يعني عكس النمبر here, الساين ماله, this is negative, صالب, فهير you'll put plus, and x, this is negative, so you're going to put plus 8. And this is how you're going to factorize this expression. So we're going to just rewrite the question again now. So this is 7x plus 36 over x plus 4, x plus 8. طبعا there are a lot of different ways to factorize this. In my opinion, since you guys have access to a calculator or mod 5.3, this I would recommend is the fastest way to figure out if it is, you know, if you can factorize this or not. تمام? The factors are x plus 4 and x plus 8, 7x plus 36. So this is the simple linear form. If you look at the table, this is linear factors. So what is the rule for linear factors? We're going to equalize this into A over the first factor, which is x plus 4, plus B over the second factor, which is x plus 8. Tamam? So we have A and we have B. All right? Now we want to find A and B. How can we do this? We are going to multiply the entire both sides by the divisor here, or the denominator, I should say. And then, So what does this mean? We are going to multiply this side by x plus 4 times x plus 8. We're going to multiply this by x plus 4 times x plus 8. And we're going to multiply this by x plus 4 times x plus 8. Tamam? We're not doing anything. We're not changing. We're just multiplying everything by the denominator. Anything you do to the left side, you're going to do to the right side of the equation. What happens here? If you notice, x plus 4 and x plus 8 here, they will cancel out. These terms will cancel out completely. So we are left with 7x plus 36 is equal to, okay, so we just cancel these out. حق A, we have x plus 4 at the bottom, so x plus 4 will cancel with x plus 4. What do we have remaining? A into x plus 8 plus, again, same thing, we look at here, x plus 8 is canceling with x plus 8. What do we have remaining? B times x plus 4. Tamam? So this is our first step in finding. Now the idea is to find A and B. This will be our first step. Now there are two different methods where you can solve this. I'm going to only use one method here, which I prefer using to solve. But there are more than two, but there are two common ones. The method I usually use is I try to cancel out one of these expressions. So either the x plus 8 or the x plus 4, so I can cancel this all out. Yani in other words, I'm trying to make this term equal 0. Okay? And then one again, I'm going to try to make this term equal to 0. So I'm going to substitute an x value for it. So x is equal to, let's look at the first one. The first one, how can I make this equal to 0? If x is equal to what value? If x is equal to minus 8. لأن minus 8 plus 8 يساوي 0. صح ولا لا? So I'm going to write x is equal to minus 8. And now I'm going to substitute this value for x into all the x values here. So let's do that. So we're going to have 7 into minus 8. Okay, so this value, I'm just going to be substituting in all the x's. 7 into minus 8 plus 36 is equal to A times minus 8 plus 8 plus B into minus 4 plus 4. Minus 8, sorry, plus 4. Okay, minus 8. We're just substituting in minus 8 into all of these. Tamam? And now we're just going to solve this equation. So 7 times minus 8 plus 36 is equal to A into minus 8 plus 8 plus B minus 8 plus 4. And now we're going to solve this equation. So if you notice here, 7 times 8 is 56. Then 7 times 8 is 56. Yep. We have a minus, so it's minus 56 plus 36 is equal to A times what? Times 0. Minus 8 plus 8 is 0. Plus B into minus 8 plus 4 is minus 4. So if you notice, the idea of using minus 8 here is we're canceling out the A completely. So this A is going to be completely cancelled. It's going to be equal to 0. So now we can just solve for B. So minus 56 plus 36 is going to be equal to minus 20. It's equal to B into minus 4. So B, if we simplify, we divide both sides by minus 4. B is going to be equal to minus 20 over minus 4, which is equal to minus 20 divided by minus 4 is just 5. We found that B is equal to 5. So we found our first value, which is B in this case. Okay. Now we are going to do the exact same thing for B. We are going to find the value for X that will cancel out B, so we can find A when we are solving. فعندنا هني 4. زين. So we will take X to be equal to minus 4. عشان minus 4 plus 4 هني will cancel out the B value. And then we will just substitute in this equation again. So we're going to substitute this minus 4 into the equation again. So the equation is 7x plus 36. So it's 7x plus 36 is equal to a into x plus 8 plus 8. Yes, plus 8 plus b into x plus 4. So what is our x value? It's minus 4, minus 4, minus 4. مثل ما تشوفون, I'm just substituting the x value, minus 4. How do you determine these x values? The fastest way you can do it is by finding the factors here from the mod 5.3 earlier. You will use the same numbers. So x1 was minus 4 and x2 was minus 8. If you notice here, I'm using the same exact values for x to simplify and cancel out the a and b quickly. You can use any value for x. The idea of using this specific values is so you do not have to solve a simultaneous equation. You can just directly cancel one of them and find the other one within one equation. If you use two random values, you'll get two equations with two unknowns and then do simultaneous equations, which is also correct, but it's just longer and more tedious. Then, now let's continue solving. 7 times minus 4 is minus 28 plus 36 is equal to a into minus 4 plus 8 is plus 4 plus b into 0. Minus 4 plus 4 is 0. So you see again, we're cancelling b completely from this equation. فبيبقى لنا بس a and we can solve for a. So again, we're just going to do minus 28 plus 36 is equal to 8 is equal to a times 4. Divide both sides by 4. We're going to get a is equal to 8 over 4. So it's equal to 2. And that is our a value. So a is equal to 2. And we have found our a and b values directly. Okay? And that's it. We have solved the question. Now we just have to write it in the partial fraction form. So this is a over x plus 4. So what is our a value? It's 2. Let me just rewrite this equation down here so you know what I'm doing. So this is the equation we had earlier, okay? So now we're just going to substitute the values for a and b. So this is going to be equal to, what is a again? It is 2. 2 over x plus 4 plus what is b? b is 5. 5 over x plus 8. And this is the simplest way to solve, or this is the simplest form of partial fractions that you can solve, which is the linear factors. All right? Any questions about what I did so far? Any case where you have factorization, you can solve it the exact same way again. There are some cases where factorizing is not going to be so easy. You cannot just use mod 5.3. You're going to have to actually do the factorizing, as you know, from either foundation math or math 1, basic factorizing of a formula. So make sure you're very good at understanding how to factorize. Okay, this comes with practice, obviously, and you have to know how to factorize. That's the most important concept. Knowing how to factorize is the most important concept for partial fractions. All right. So let's do another question using a different method, or not a different method, a different case. So let's take, for example, this one, I. In the case of I, if you notice, here we have repeated linear roots. And if you look at the table, we have repeated linear roots. So what does that mean? We have a linear denominator, 3x plus 4 squared, but it is repeated. So what does, if we want to write this in partial fraction form, it's going to be slightly different. But before that, let's check the x value. So this is x power 1. This is x power 1, but it's squared. So this becomes x power 2 eventually. And if we distribute this, it becomes x power 2. So the numerator is less than the denominator. All right. So we can simply say this is, we could use partial fractions, a over 3x plus 4 plus b. In the case of repeated linear roots, we're going to have to write it again, 3x plus 4, but it's going to be squared. If you notice here in the rule, in the case of having a repeated linear, x plus a, for example, in this case cubed, you're going to put a over x plus a, then b plus over x plus a squared, then c over x plus a cubed. If this was to the power 4, you will add one more plus d over x plus a to the power 4, etc. etc. And على حسب كم الباور اللي عندكم إياه تحت. You will repeat it as many times as the power is there. So this is power 3. You're going to have 3 separate functions or separate variables. زين؟ يعني a, b, or c. If this was power 2, you're going to have a and b. If this was power 4, you're going to have a, b, c, and d. And if you notice in the denominator, it's always increasing by 1. So it's x plus a, بعدين x plus a squared, بعدين x plus a cubed. So in our case, in this question, it is only up to squared. So we're going to repeat it 2 times, a and b. First one is without the square, and then the second one with the square. And then you will solve using the exact same method we did earlier. You're going to multiply both sides with the denominator. So you're going to be multiplying here by 3x plus 4 all squared. You're going to be multiplying here by 3x plus 4 all squared. And you're going to be multiplying here by 3x plus 4 squared. Tamam? So what do you notice will happen here? So first of all, 18x plus 20. This will cancel completely. It's the same thing. Here, this is squared. So remember, if you have the same number up and down, you're going to do the power minus the power at the bottom. This is as if this is to the power of 1. صح ولا لا? So this will become 2 minus 1. So what will be remaining? The 2 basically will cancel with this entire thing, and 3x plus 4 will only be remaining. So this is going to be equal to a times 3x plus 4. Again, عشان بس تفهمون this concept. What happened here is كان عندنا a divided by 3x plus 4 times 3x plus 4 squared. تمام? If we write this, for example, يعني إذا كان عندنا any other variable, يعني let's say that we have s over x cubed, زين, أو مو x cubed, just x for simplicity, times x squared. This is the exact same idea we are doing here. This x squared is going to be 2 minus 1. So the squared will be cancelled with the x completely. وبيبقى لنا s times x in the top. This is exactly what we are doing here. So this is going to be a times the square is going to be cancelling with 3x plus 4, 3x plus 4. So no confusion, okay? This is math 1 knowledge. تمام? Yeah, and that's pretty much it. This is what I did. So we finished with the a. And then here, if you notice, 3x plus squared, 3x plus 4 squared, 3x plus 4 squared, all will cancel. And we will be left with plus b. And then here, it might not be very clear which x to cancel the a, all right? But if you want to find out, so again, the way to do this is 3x plus 4, tamam. Actually, instead of canceling, I want to use the different method here just to see if you guys want to use that one and you prefer that one. So the second method of solving, instead of substituting for x, you're going to rearrange the right side here. You're going to rearrange the right side depending on the values you have of x. بما معنى. So the left side will stay the same. So 8x plus 20 is equal to, let's distribute the a. So we're going to have a times 3x plus a times 4 plus b. b has no x's or anything like that. تمام? Let's simplify this and let's rearrange it so that x is by itself and the constants are by themselves. بما معنى. So we'll keep 18x on the right side of only. On the left side, nothing changes. فالحين عندنا x by itself زين, and what will be inside here? It will be 3a. Okay, and now the constants again we will arrange by themselves. So بيكون عندنا 4a plus b. Okay, so what ما سويت شيء هني, I just rearranged. يعني الاكس خليته بروحه, زين, with 3a inside. Anything with x I kept it together. هني بس عندنا this with x. Anything without x I kept it together. زين. And now here what we are going to compare is the x's. We're going to compare with each other. And we're going to look at the constants that are next to them. So anything multiplied by x here should be equal to anything multiplied by x on the right side. بما معنى 3a should be equal to 18. Okay? ليش؟ لأن this 18 over here should be equal to 3a. لأن these are the ones يعني the constants of x اللي مضروبين في x. So these are the only things that are multiplied by x. So they must be equal for this equation to be true. And the exact same thing we will do for the 20 and this. Any constants, any numbers without x's, they have to equal. Yani this whole part has no x's. The 20 has no x's, so they have to be equal for this equation to be true. So 4a plus b is equal to 20. If you notice the first equation, we can just simplify this, a, and we can find a. So a is equal to 18 divided by 3. So it shows that a is equal to 18 divided by 3 is astaghfirullah, 6. All right? Same exact thing here we were going to do. Now we already have a value for a, so we can substitute this value of a into this equation. فبيكون عندنا 4 times a. What is a? A is equal to 6 plus b is equal to 20. And now we can solve for b. So 4 times 6 is 24 plus b is equal to 20. So b is equal to 20 minus 24. All right? So b is going to be equal to minus 4. And we found our a and b values, just like that. Tamam? So now if we substitute this back into our original equation, our a over this equation over here. So again, I'm going to just rewrite it very quickly here. So 18, was it 18x plus 20 over 3x plus 4 squared was equal to a over 3x plus 4 plus b over 3x plus 4 squared. بنعوض الحين بالأرقام. So this is equal to a is equal to 6. So 6 over 3x plus 4 plus b is minus 4. So plus minus 4 over 3x plus 4 squared. طبعا plus or minus becomes minus. So just to simplify it again, it's going to be 6 over 3x plus 4 minus 4 over 3x plus 4 squared. And this is how you simplify if you have the case of repeated linear roots. Okay? Any questions so far? Is this clear? So this is just a second method. This is a different method of using it. You could use the x method again to use this to substitute for x2 values and solve. Or you can use this method where you are grouping the x's by themselves and the constants and then equalizing the constants and then solving for a and b. Or you could do the substitution method that I did earlier. And then let me look for an example with quadratic factors. And then let's do this one. So we have this 3x squared minus x plus 1 over x squared minus x plus 3, x minus 1. So the first rule, again, in solving for partial, we need to check the power. So this is 2. This is 2, but there's also an x here. So if you multiply these two x's, this will actually become 3. So we can directly go, there's no long division required here. We can directly solve using partial fractions. Now, this equation, if you notice from the table, this equation is very similar to the quadratic factors one. First thing you need to check is if you can factorize this expression, which is x squared minus x plus 3. And if you can factorize, it's going to be just a simple linear one that you can solve. So mod 5, 3. All right, you go to mod 5, 3. 1, a is equal to 1. This here, a is equal to 1, b is equal to minus 1, and c is equal to 3. Minus 1 and 3. If you notice in the calculator, x1 يطلع لكم something like this. Half of plus square root 11 over 2 I. Because there is this I value, remember when I said this means it's complex. When you see this I value, just know you cannot factorize. So you have to use the quadratic شو كان اسمه quadratic equation? Quadratic factors, sorry. The quadratic factors. Okay? So now we're going to have to apply the quadratic factor. Now the quadratic factors is a bit more different than the normal ones, where the numerator is going to be slightly different. So I'm just going to rewrite this very quickly again into x minus 1. So for the quadratic part, if you notice in the table, it's not straight up a over or b over. You're going to have to put a times x plus b over the quadratic part, okay? Remember this, you're going to be multiplying by x for a, and then you're going to add b all over the quadratic part. So how will this look like? It will look like this. So a x plus b over the quadratic part, which is x squared minus x plus 3 plus c over x minus 1. And this is just a normal linear factor, okay? And this is all equal to 3x squared minus x plus 1. Again, we will do the same concept where we're multiplying by x squared minus x plus 3. And we're going to be multiplying this denominator and then into everything. And then we're going to be multiplying it here. We're going to be multiplying it here. We're going to be multiplying it here. So it's going to here, it's going to cancel out. So we've got 3x squared minus x plus 1 is equal to a x plus b times, if you notice, if we're going to multiply x squared minus x plus 3 x minus 1 هني x squared ويا x squared minus x هاي كامل بيتكنسل اللي بيبقى x minus 1. What will be left is only the x minus 1. So it's going to be x minus 1 plus, same idea, c. The only thing left here, the x minus 1 here will cancel with the x minus 1. What will be left is the quadratic part, which is x squared minus x plus 3. All right. لو تلاحظون هني زين we could solve it using the x method اللي substitute for x. يعني مثلا نقدر هني نقول when x equals 0 ال a بيتكنسل لكن ال b وال c ما بيتكنسل. فبعد يعني we will have to solve it using linear equations. So in this case, the second method that I did, it's better to apply because it will lead to a faster solution. So let's do that one more time. So 3x squared minus x plus 1 is equal to, let's just distribute everything. زين فعندنا هني what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna highlight the x's and the x squared and all of that. So we're gonna have a into, I'm gonna highlight x with orange, زين, plus b into x. I'm just distributing يعني this b I'm just distributing inside, minus b times minus 1 is just minus b, plus c. The x squared I'm gonna use في لون ما استخدمت الأخضر. انزين x cubed أو x squared minus c times minus x, so c x plus c times 3, which is just 3c. Okay, so you see here the x's I'm going to group together, and the x squared I'm going to group together, and everything that is not x or x squared I'm going to group together. So on the right side, if I just rewrite this, 3 plus 1 اللي هو هذا x وهذا x squared. Let's do it in order. x squared أول شيء شنو هني اللي عندنا x squared, we only have this term plus c, فبيكون بس c. تمام, plus x. زين, فالحين بنشوف the terms that are multiplied into x. عندنا a, فبنكتب a اللي هو plus a. عندنا ال b, we have the b اللي هو plus b بالأصح. زين, we have plus b. So we're going to write plus b. We have the minus cx, minus cx. So we're going to put minus c. Okay, and that's it. These are the only things with x. We close this, and we will group everything else now together. فأي شيء يعني هني خلصنا منه, we just remove it عشان we don't get confused. زين, we خلصنا من هذا, بقالنا minus b, بقالنا هال minus b, فminus b هاي خلصنا, وال plus 3c. alright, فمثل ما قلت we are grouping everything يخص ال x squared ويا بعض, everything يخص ال x ويا بعض, or everything that has no x's ويا بعض together. زين, and now we will compare. We will look at this c and we will look at the constant of here. لأن x squared هني و x squared هني, so anything multiplied by x squared here should be equal to anything multiplied by x squared هني. So simply we can say that 3 is equal to c, or in other words حصلنا c value مالنا, c is equal to 3. See how instantly we found c? We found c instantly using that equation. الحين نقدر نعوض هالc in any of the remaining c's later on, which you will see. But first let's look at the values for x. So here we have minus. شو يعني? This is basically saying this is multiplied by minus 1. صح ولا لا? It's the same thing. So we say minus 1 is equal to this whole part, a plus b minus c. عندنا already احنا c, فنقدر نعوض الc احنا هني. So this is going to be equal to يعني minus 1 is going to be equal to a plus b minus 3 اللي هو c بس عوضنا مكانه. Okay, if we rearrange this equation, it's like saying a plus b is equal to minus 3 ناخذ الصوب الثاني يستوي plus 3 becomes minus 1 plus 3 which is equal to 2. زين, ف a plus b is equal to 2. Okay, so this is our first equation we managed to get out of this. Now we go look at the last part اللي هو هذا اللي عندنا بس ال 1 plus 1. But plus 1 or just 1 is equal to minus b plus 3c minus b plus 3c. Again احنا طلعنا ال c فنقدر نعوض ال c هني. So this is going to be 1 is equal to minus b plus 3. ال c شنو؟ ال c 3. ف 3. If we rearrange this equation تلاحظون we can directly solve for b. So minus b أو خلينا take it step by step. 1 is equal to minus b plus 9. 9 I'll take it to the other side. So it will become minus b is equal to 1 minus 9 which is equal to minus 8. ف minus b is equal to minus 8. معناته شو؟ معناته ال b is equal to 8. The minus b equal minus 8, the b will be equal to 8. تمام. So now we found B. We found the B value اللي هو الأزرق. ف B is equal to 8. Earlier we found C is equal to 3 and we found B is equal to 8. Now we look at equation 1 again. And then A plus B equal to 2. But now we have the B value. So we can substitute now. For A plus B, which is 8, is equal to 2. زين? Is equal to 2. So now we can solve this equation. A is just going to be equal to 2 minus 8 implies A is equal to minus 6. فحصلنا الحين ال A value minus 6. And now we found all of our partial fraction values. Remember, this is our equation. Then this is our equation. Now we just substitute the values that we have found. Okay. We will substitute all the values that we have found here. So instead of A, instead of B, instead of C, we'll put the values that we have found. So A was minus 6. So this is minus 6x. B was 8 plus 8. And C was 3 plus 3. And this is the final answer. Is this clear? Did you understand the method? Now, be careful لأن I feel حتى أنا I did a mistake maybe somewhere من ناحية ال distribution أو من ناحية I forgot a minus or a plus. But the technique is the same. The technique is just like that. You're gonna group up the A's. You're gonna group up the X's. بعدين you'll group up the X squareds. بعدين you'll group up the ones without X's. You're gonna solve for each equation. تمام. And then you're going to just that's it. And then you're just going to solve for A, B, and C, and then you're going to find it in this form. Does anyone have any questions about anything here? This is literally all of partial fractions, and I have just solved everything you can have with partial fractions. There is one question I want to solve. One more question I want to solve before أختم هذا meeting. Yes, the session is recorded, and inshallah by tonight I'll upload it. There's one more question I want to solve. I just want to make sure everyone knows all the concepts so far. No one has any questions. This, again, this you need to practice a lot, and you will have to make a lot of mistakes until you get used to it. Linear partial fractions, as you can see, there's a lot of math you need to do. The idea, the concept is very straightforward. Best the factorizing, you need to know how to do very well. The substituting x's, the adding values, as you can see, there's a lot of actual math, like work that you need to do. You could be making mistakes in values here and there, which could happen. You need to be careful with that. So make sure you're following everything step by step and taking your time when solving. And then let's do the last question I want to solve, which is this one. X cubed over x squared minus 4. Now, هني, if you notice, the numerator, the value is greater than 3 is greater than 2. So we cannot do partial fraction. First step should be long division. Then, so the first thing you need to do is long division. So again, this is numerator, this is denominator. But denominator goes here, x squared minus 4. Numerator will go here, x cubed. And then, so we look at the first term, x squared. What do we need to multiply to get x cubed? We multiply by x. Very clear. X times x squared, then for x into x squared minus 4 becomes x cubed minus 4x. So this will become x cubed minus 4x. We subtract. And then if you don't have anything here, it's basically as if saying it's plus 0. And then it's the same thing if this makes it easier to understand. For x cubed minus x cubed becomes 0. 0 minus minus 4x or 0 plus 4x بيستوي plus 4x. Now, if you notice here, the power is 1. Power here is smaller than the power here. So this is a remainder. So this is a remainder. Okay? How do we write the remainder? How do we write the solution for this? This is going to be x, the solution, x, plus the remainder, which is 4x, divided by the denominator, which is x squared minus 4. Tamam? So this is what we did now. This is the long division part. X خلاص حصلنا. This is an answer simplified. Now we are going to have to apply partial fractions to this term over here, or this rational function. We're going to have to do partial fractions. Again, we're going to be doing the same method that we did earlier. So the x part we're not going to look at for now. We know it's a part of the solution. We're just going to look at the 4x over x squared minus 4. If we want to factor this, remember the rule. I don't know if you know this rule, but a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. Tamam? This is a shortcut to no factorization of something like this. So in this case, the a is x and the b is 4. So, sorry, 2, because it's the square root of 2. Square root of 4. So again, this is our a. A is square root of x squared. Cancel on. So a is equal to x and b is equal to, this is just using this form. احنا ما سوينا partial fractions. This is just to factorize, okay? And this is our b. زين. b is equal to 4 square root of 4. And then the b squared is equal to 4. So b is going to be equal to 2. Again, you can factorize using mod 5.3 if that's easier for you. But if you know this rule, it makes it so much faster rather than getting the calculator out and all of that. So again, if we apply this rule, so x plus 2 times x minus 2. Tamam? And now we can go into the partial fraction part. So 4x over x plus 2 into x minus 2 is equal to a over x plus 2 minus, plus b over x minus 2. Simple linear partial fractions. Again, if you're multiplying everything by the denominator, you will be left with 4x is equal to a times x plus 2 will cancel with x plus 2. You will be remaining with x minus 2 plus b into x minus 2 will cancel with x minus 2. You'll be remaining with x plus 2. Tamam? Here you can do either method. If you can notice here, you can quickly cancel out, so you can use the substitution method, which, for example, you could say x is equal to 2 and it will cancel the first one. So when x is equal to 2, 4 times 2 is equal to a into 2 minus 2 plus b into 2 plus 2. Okay? If you notice here, a will cancel out. 2 minus 2, this is equal to 0. So this is 8 is equal to b times 4. So if you simplify this, b is equal to 8 divided by 4, which is just 2. b is equal to 2. Same exact thing you will do for b. You want to cancel it out. Minus 2 will cancel this out, so x equal minus 2. 4 into minus 2 is equal to a into minus 2 minus 2, just substituting minus 2 for x, plus b into minus 2 plus 2. تلاحظون here again, you notice this becomes 0 because minus 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. You'll be left only with an equation with a. 4 times minus 2 minus 8 is equal to a. Minus 2 is minus 4. A is simply going to be equal to minus 8 divided by minus 4. Minuses will cancel. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we found our b value. B is equal to 2. And we found our a value. A is equal to 2. They're both equal to 2. All right. Now we're going to substitute it back into this. Then we're going to substitute it back into this. So instead of a and b, this is going to be 2 and 2. But this is not our final answer. Remember, we had the x part as well from earlier. This is only the partial fractions for this part. So we're going to add x to it. So it's going to be x plus 2 over x plus 2 plus 2 over x minus 2. This is what the solution would look like if you had to do long division first. بيكون عندكم a separate part by itself, and then the remainder part is going to be where you apply partial fractions. I believe I've covered all the possible concepts when it comes to actual partial fractions. However, there's still a lot of different ways to do the algebra, especially when it comes to factorizing. And this I cannot teach you all of it obviously لأن في وايد طرق عشان تسوون factorizing. This you're going to have to practice on your own. There are a lot of questions available on Moodle, I believe, for partial fractions. Try to do all of them. I'm not even joking. Try to do all of them until you get very familiar with all the possible types of factorizing and simplifying. And if you want to watch a video about factorizing, I believe I have one for math for foundation students on the channel later on to help you understand the different techniques you can use for factorizing with and without a calculator. And that's pretty much it for today's session. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me right now. We covered all the way up to partial fractions. From next week, inshallah, we will start with limits and sequences. And I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, I'll be here for a couple more minutes to ask. Otherwise, have a wonderful night or enjoy suhoor and enjoy the weekend, bad. Reminder, tomorrow I'm gonna have a what's it called? Session for